The lights flickered on Valara 9 trading station. They always flickered. The old station was dying slowly, held together by cheap repairs and the stubbornness of those who lived there. Kang Taeho walked through the cargo bay with his flashlight, checking the corners and shadows as he did every night. He was not a remarkable man. 34 years old, average height, with a face that showed too many hard years. He had been a soldier once, fighting in the colony wars that had killed so many humans. Now he was just a security officer on a forgotten station at the edge of known space. It was a quiet job. He liked quiet. The cargo bay was full of old containers and broken machines. Traders came and went, leaving their unwanted goods behind. Taeho moved between the metal boxes, his boots making soft sounds on the floor. He was about to finish his patrol when he heard something, a small sound. Like breathing, like someone trying very hard not to be heard. Taeho stopped walking. He turned off his flashlight and stood very still in the darkness. His soldier training came back to him easily. He listened. He waited. The sound came again. It was coming from behind a stack of old containers in the corner. He moved slowly and quietly. When he reached the containers, he turned on his flashlight suddenly. A child screamed. Taeho almost dropped his light. Hiding in the small space between the containers was a little girl. But she was not a human girl. Her skin was silver, shining softly even in the dim light. Her eyes were large and violet, filled with tears and terror. Her hair was white like snow, and her small body was shaking. Taeho knew what she was. A Lunari. He had seen a few of them before, always from far away. They were rare and beautiful beings, known throughout the galaxy for their telepathic gifts. They could feel emotions and send their thoughts to others. They were also hunted. Slavers paid enormous amounts for Lunari, especially children whose powers had not yet developed fully. The little girl pressed herself against the wall, trying to get away from him. She was wearing torn clothes, dirty and stained. She looked like she had not eaten in days. Taeho slowly lowered himself to one knee. He made his voice soft. "Hey, it is okay. I am not going to hurt you." The girl did not understand his words, but something in his tone made her stop crying. She looked at him with those huge violet eyes, and Taeho felt something strange in his mind. A feeling that was not his own. Fear. Hunger. Desperate hope. She was projecting her emotions to him. It was weak and uncontrolled, the way a child might cry out loud without meaning to. "Where is your family?" Taeho asked gently. The girl's face crumbled. More feelings flooded into his mind. Loss, separation. A woman with the same silver skin being dragged away by rough hands. The girl hiding, told to stay hidden, waiting for someone who never came back. Slavers. They had taken her mother. Taeho felt his jaw tighten. He had seen too much cruelty in his life. He had lost his own family during the war. His wife. His daughter, who would have been about this girl's age now. The memories still burned inside him like hot coals that never cooled. He reached out his hand slowly. "Come with me. I will keep you safe." The girl looked at his hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached out and took it. Her fingers were small and cold. Taeho lifted her up and carried her out of the cargo bay. He had just reached the corridor when he heard heavy footsteps behind him. He turned and saw 3 figures walking toward him. They were Kravik, a reptilian species known for their strength and their cruelty. They wore the marks of the slaver guilds. "Human," the leader said, his voice like rocks grinding together. "We are looking for something. A Lunari child. Have you seen it?" Taeho felt the girl's arms tighten around his neck. Her fear flooded into his mind, so strong it almost made him dizzy. He looked at the slavers. 3 of them, armed with shock sticks and blades. He had only his security pistol and his training. "No," Taeho said calmly. I have not seen any child. The leader's yellow eyes narrowed. What is that you are carrying? My daughter, Tejo said without hesitation. She is sick. I am taking her to the medical bay. The slavers looked at each other. One of them laughed, a harsh and ugly sound. Your daughter? Humans do not have silver skin, fool. Her mother was not human, Tejo said. His voice was still calm, but something cold was growing inside him. Something he had not felt since the war. The leader stepped closer. Give us the child. We will pay you well. 5,000 credits. She is not for sale. 10,000. No. The leader's eyes grew hard. Then we will take her, and we will leave your body for the cleaning drones. The slavers moved forward. They were confident. They were bigger and stronger than this single human. They had done this many times before. They did not understand what they were facing. Tejo put the girl down behind him. Close your eyes, he told her softly. Do not look. Then he moved. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the fastest or the smartest. But they had something that made other species fear them. They could push past pain. They could keep fighting when their bodies were broken. And when they were protecting something they loved, they became something terrible. Tejo broke the first slaver's arm before the creature could swing his shock stick. He took the weapon and used it on the second slaver, driving it into his throat. The leader pulled a blade, but Tejo was faster. He grabbed the blade arm, twisted it until the bone snapped, and then used the slaver's own weapon against him. It was over in less than a minute. 3 bodies lay on the floor. Tejo stood above them, breathing hard. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the effort of controlling himself. The old rage was still there, burning inside him. He had learned to cage it, but it never went away. He turned around. The little girl was standing where he had left her, her eyes open despite his instruction. She was not looking at the bodies. She was looking at him. He expected to feel her fear. Instead, he felt something else. Wonder, safety, trust. She walked to him and took his hand again. Tejo looked down at her. He had no idea what to do now. He had just killed 3 slavers. More would come looking for them. He had no plan, no resources, no help. But the little girl was holding his hand and looking up at him like he was the only safe thing in the universe. Okay, Tejo said quietly. Okay, we will figure this out. He picked her up again. She rested her head against his shoulder, and for the first time, he felt something from her that was not fear or pain. It was hope. 5 days passed on Valora 9 station. Tejo had moved the girl to a small room in the workers' section. It was not much. Just a bed, a small kitchen area, and a bathroom. But it had a door that locked, and that was what mattered. He learned her name on the second day. She pointed to herself and said, Vila. Her voice was soft and musical, like wind through bells. She did not speak much Galactic Common, only a few words here and there. But she did not need words to communicate. Her emotions flowed into his mind constantly. At first it was uncomfortable, like having someone touch him without permission. But slowly he got used to it. He began to understand what she needed without her saying anything. When she was hungry, he felt a hollow ache in his stomach that was not his own. When she was scared, cold fear would brush against his thoughts. When she was happy, warmth spread through his chest like sunlight. Feeding her was the first challenge. Lunari could not eat the same food as humans. Their bodies needed different things. Tejo spent hours reading old files on his datapad, trying to learn what she could safely eat. He traded some of his belongings for the right supplies. Soft fruits, certain vegetables, a special kind of grain that the Lunari digestive system could handle. He learned to cook for her, simple meals that she ate with small, careful bites. Sleeping was the second challenge. Vala needed light to sleep. Not bright light, but soft, gentle light that filled the room. Complete darkness terrified her. Her people had evolved on a world with 3 moons. They had never known true darkness. Tejo bought a small light device and set it to glow softly through the night. Vala slept better after that, but the nightmares still came. She would wake up crying, her small body shaking, her mind flooding his with terrible images. Her mother being taken, rough hands grabbing her, running and hiding and being so alone. Tejo did not know how to stop the nightmares. He only knew how to be there when they happened. On the 3rd night, when Vala woke up screaming, Tejo sat down on the bed beside her. He did not say anything. He just sat there, and she reached out and put her small hand on his arm. He felt what she needed. She needed to feel that she was not alone. She needed to feel something steady and calm, like an anchor in a storm. Tejo closed his eyes and tried to calm his own mind. He thought about quiet things. The sound of rain on a roof. The smell of coffee in the morning. The feeling of sitting in a warm room while snow fell outside. Simple, peaceful things. Vala's breathing slowed. Her grip on his arm relaxed. Through their connection, he felt her mind settle. Soothed by the calm he was giving her, she fell asleep holding on to him. After that night, it became a routine. When the nightmares came, Tejo would sit with her. He would let her hold his hand or his arm, and he would fill his mind with peaceful thoughts. It was strange at first. He had never been good at expressing feelings, not even with words. This was different. This was sharing something deeper than words. The other beings on the station began to notice. Korvax, the dog chief, was a large insect-like creature with many arms and cold black eyes. He stopped Tejo one morning in the corridor. "Human," Korvax said, his voice clicking and buzzing. "The slavers have posted a reward for the Lunari child. 20,000 credits. They will come back for her." "I know," Tejo said. "You should give her up. It is not worth dying for a creature that is not even your own species." Tejo looked at Korvax for a long moment. "No? Why? What is she to you?" "She has no one else." Korvax made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Humans, you are a strange species. You form attachments so easily, so recklessly. It will be your death someday." Tejo walked away without answering. Later that day, the Rithani merchant who ran the supply shop asked him the same question. Rithani were tall, thin beings with blue skin and 3 eyes. This one was named Pavo, and he had always been friendly to Tejo. "I heard about the child," Pavo said while Tejo bought food. "You are taking a great risk. The slaver guilds do not forgive. They do not forget." "I know. And why do you protect her?" "She is nothing to you. Not your blood. Not your kind." Tejo thought about the question. He thought about his wife and daughter, buried on a world he would never see again. He thought about all the years he had spent running from the pain, hiding from connection, telling himself he was better off alone. "Because someone should," he finally said. "Because she is just a child. Because I can." Pavo studied him with all 3 eyes. "There is more to it than that. I can see it in you. You are not just protecting her. You are healing something." Tejo did not answer. He took his supplies and left. That night, Vala did something new. She was sitting on the bed, playing with a small toy that Tejo had made for her from spare parts. She looked up at him and smiled, and then she sent him an image. It was an image of himself, but not the way he looked in a mirror. It was the way she saw him. In her mind, he was warm and golden, like a fire that kept the darkness away. He was safety. He was protection. He was home. Tejo felt his throat tighten. He had not been anyone's home for a very long time. "Vala," he said softly, I am not a good man. I have done bad things. I have failed people who needed me." She did not understand his words, but she felt the pain behind them. She got up from the bed, walked over to him, and took his hand. She looked up at him with those big violet eyes and sent him another feeling dot. It did not matter. Whatever he had done before, whatever he thought of himself, it did not matter to her. She saw who he was now. And who he was now was good. Tejo knelt down so he was at her level. Vela put her small hand on his face, and he felt her love pour into him. It was pure and simple, the way only a child could love. Without judgment, without conditions. He did not deserve it. He knew that. But he would spend whatever time he had left trying to be worthy of it. Word spread through the station and beyond. Traders carried stories to other stations, other worlds. They spoke of the human who fought slavers with his bare hands. The human who took in a Lunari child and cared for her like his own. The human who refused 20,000 credits and said simply, "She has no one else." In the depths of space, on a slaver ship bound for the dark markets, a Lunari woman heard these stories. She had been captured and beaten and was being taken to be sold. But she was alive. And she had abilities that her captors did not fully understand. Lady Isora began to plan her escape. Her daughter was alive. A human was protecting her. She would find them both. The slaver ship drifted in the cold darkness between stars. Inside, the prisoners slept in their cells, drugged and broken. But one prisoner was not sleeping. Lady Isora sat in the corner of her cell with her eyes closed, reaching out with her mind. The Lunari were not a violent people. They had evolved beyond physical conflict long ago, choosing instead to communicate through thoughts and emotions. But they were not helpless. Their mental abilities, when fully developed, could do more than just send feelings. Isora reached out and touched the mind of the guard outside her cell. He was a Kravik, simple and brutal. His thoughts focused on violence and money. She could not control him directly. That was not how Lunari powers worked. But she could suggest. She could make him feel things that were not real. She made him feel tired. So very tired. His eyes grew heavy. His body slumped. He fell asleep standing up, his weapon sliding from his loose grip. Isora stood and walked to the cell door. She reached through the bars and took the key card from the sleeping guard's belt. The door opened with a soft click. She moved through the ship like a ghost. When guards came near, she made them feel that nothing was wrong, that the corridor was empty, that they should go somewhere else. It was exhausting work. Each mind she touched drained her strength. But she kept going. Her daughter was waiting. She reached the escape pods and found one that still worked. She climbed inside, sealed the door, and launched herself into the void. The journey to Valora 9 took 11 days. Isora survived on emergency rations and hope. When the old station finally appeared on her sensors, she wept on. She docked without permission, ignoring the angry messages from station control. She walked through the corridors, reaching out with her mind, searching for her daughter's familiar presence. And then she felt it. Vela's mind, so bright and pure. But there was something else with her. Another mind. A human mind, steady and warm like banked coals. Isora followed the feeling to a small room in the workers' section. The door was locked. She knocked. A voice came from inside. Male. Wary. Who is there? My name is Isora. I am looking for my daughter. Silence. Then the sound of footsteps. The door opened, and Isora saw him for the first time. He was not what she had expected. The stories had made him sound like a warrior, a giant who fought slavers with supernatural strength. But the man standing in front of her was just ordinary, average height, tired eyes, messy dark hair. He wore simple clothes and held himself like someone who expected trouble but hoped it would not come behind him. Sitting on a bed with a toy in her hands, Was Vila. The little girl looked up. Her violet eyes went wide. Mama? Isara's heart broke and healed in the same moment. She pushed past the human and ran to her daughter. Vela jumped from the bed and threw herself into her mother's arms. They held each other and cried, and their minds touched and merged, sharing everything they had felt during their separation. Tejo watched from the doorway. He did not interrupt. He simply waited, his hands loose at his sides, his expression unreadable. When the tears finally slowed, Isora looked at her daughter properly. Vila was healthy. She was clean. She was wearing simple but well-made clothes that fit her properly. Her hair had been brushed, and her eyes were bright and clear. Vila, Isora said softly in their native language. Tell me everything. Through their mental connection, Vila shared her memories. The terror of the attack. Hiding in the cargo bay for days. Being found by the human. His gentle voice and steady hands. The way he fed her and cared for her and sat with her during nightmares. The way he fought the slavers, quick and brutal and terrifying. And through it all, his constant, unwavering protection. Isora saw through her daughter's eyes. But she also saw the human. She saw how Vila perceived him. He was safety. He was warmth. He was the wall between her and all the darkness in the universe. Isora slowly turned to look at Tejo. He was still standing in the doorway, watching them with careful eyes. He had not asked for thanks. He had not asked for anything. He was simply waiting to see what would happen next. You saved my daughter, Isora said in Galactic Common. She needed help, Tejo said. I helped. The slavers offered you money. Yes, you refused. She is a child, not a thing to be sold. Isora studied him. She could feel his emotions faintly, the way she could feel any nearby mind. But his feelings were muted, controlled, hidden behind walls of discipline and pain. She caught only glimpses, wariness, relief that she was here, and something else, something sad and tired and old. You lost someone, Isora said quietly. A child. Tejo's expression flickered. Just for a moment, his walls cracked, and she felt a wave of grief so deep made her breath catch. Then the walls closed again, and he was unreadable once more. My daughter, he said. During the war. She was the same age as Vela. Isora understood now. He had not just protected Vela out of kindness. He had been protecting the ghost of his own child, trying to do for this little girl what he could not do for his own. I have prepared rewards, Isora said. Money, political favors. Whatever you want. Tejo shook his head. I do not want rewards. Then what do you want? He looked at Vila, who was watching him with wide eyes, still holding her mother's hand. Something soft passed across his face. I want her to be safe. To be happy. That is enough. Isora felt something shift inside her. She had expected many things when she came here. Greed, bargaining, perhaps danger. She had not expected this. A human who wanted nothing except her daughter's happiness. She looked at Vila, and her daughter's thoughts flowed into her mind. Do not send him away. He is mine. He is ours. Please. Mama.Isora closed her eyes. Among her people, there were old customs, ancient bonds that tied families together across blood and species. She had never thought she would invoke one of them with a human, but her daughter had already chosen. And Isora, looking at this tired, kind, broken man who had fought for her child, found that she was beginning to understand why. Stay, she said. Please, at least for tonight. We have much to discuss. Tejo hesitated. Then he nodded and stepped inside, closing the door behind him. That night, they talked. Isora told him about her people, about the Lunari homeworld and its crystal cities, about her position as a lady of a noble house. Tejo told her about himself, about the war and his losses and the years he had spent drifting through space. Vela fell asleep between them, her small hand holding onto Tejo's sleeve. Isora watched the human as he looked down at her daughter. His face was soft, gentler than she had seen it before. He reached out and brushed a strand of white hair from Vila's face with a touch so careful it was almost reverent. He loved her. Isora could see it clearly now, not because she was a replacement for his lost child, but because she was Vila, somewhere during those frightening days. A bond had formed between them, real and deep and true. Isora made her decision. Tomorrow, she would tell him about the Silvereth. Morning came slowly to Valora 9. The station's artificial lights brightened gradually, imitating a sunrise that no one on board had seen in years. Tejo woke to find Vela still sleeping beside him, her small hand curled around his fingers. Isora was already awake, sitting in a chair by the window, watching him with those deep violet eyes. "You did not sleep," Tejo said quietly, careful not to wake the child. "Lunari do not need as much sleep as humans," Isora replied. "And I had much to think about." Tejo gently freed his hand from Vila's grip and stood up. He moved to the small kitchen area and began making food. Simple things. Tea for himself, fruit for Vila, and a bowl of the soft grain that Lunari could eat. "You learned our diet," Isora observed. She was hungry. I learned. Isora was quiet for a moment. Then she stood and walked to stand beside him. This close, Tejo could smell something like flowers and rain. It was strange and beautiful, like everything about her. "I need to tell you something," Isora said. "About my people, about our customs." Tejo kept his eyes on the food he was preparing. "Okay, among the Lunari, family is not just about blood. We believe that souls can recognize each other across all barriers. When a bond forms, a true bond, it does not matter if those involved are related by birth. That is a nice belief. It is more than a belief. It is a law, a sacred tradition." Isora paused. "When someone protects a child in the absence of the parents, when they care for that child and love that child, they form a connection. We call this connection the Silvereth, the claiming of guardians." Tejo's hand stopped moving. He turned to look at her. "What does that mean?" "It means that you are bound to us now, to Vila and to me, not as a servant or an employee, as family." Tejo stared at her. "I do not understand." "My daughter has already marked you in her heart. She sees you as her protector, her. In your language, the word might be father. Among my people, such a bond is sacred. It cannot be broken. It should not be refused." "Wait." Tejo stepped back, confusion and alarm mixing in his chest. "I am just a security guard. I have nothing. I am no one. Your people are noble and powerful. You do not need someone like me." Isora's expression did not change. "You misunderstand. This is not about need. This is about truth. Vila chose you. She bonded with you during your time together. That choice has meaning, deep meaning. She is a child. She does not know what she is choosing. Children know more than adults believe. They see truth clearly, without the walls that grown people build." Isora stepped closer. "Do you deny that you care for her?" Tejo could not deny it. The truth was written in everything he had done for the past 2 weeks. Caring is not the same as. "Whatever this is it not?" Isora's voice softened. "Kang Tejo, I felt your emotions last night when you looked at my daughter. I felt the love there. It was real. Do not tell me it was nothing." Tejo turned away. His heart was beating too fast. This was too much, too sudden. He had spent years learning to be alone, building walls around his heart, protecting himself from the pain of loss. Now this woman was asking him to tear down those walls and become part of a family again. "I cannot," he said. His voice was rough, I am not. I do not. You are afraid. The words hit him like a blow. He wanted to deny them, but he could not. He was afraid, terrified, because he had loved before and he had lost everything. Because opening his heart again meant risking that same pain. The last time I had a family, they died, Taeho said. I could not save them. I was not there when they needed me. They are gone because I failed. And so you decided to never have a family again. It was safer that way. Isora was quiet for a long moment. Then she walked around to face him. She reached up and touched his face, her silver fingers cool against his skin. He felt a pulse of her emotions flow into him. Understanding, patience, and something warmer, something he could not name. You did not fail them, Isora said gently. You were in a war. There was nothing you could have done. You know this in your mind, even if your heart does not believe it. It does not matter what I know. Then let me tell you what I know. Isora's eyes held his, steady and calm. I know that my daughter was alone and afraid, and you protected her. I know that slavers came for her, and you killed them without hesitation. I know that you could have sold her for more money than you will see in your entire life, and you refused. That is not the behavior of a man who fails his family. That is the behavior of a father. Taeho's eyes burned. He wanted to pull away, to retreat to his walls, to be safe again. But Isara's hand was still on his face, and her emotions were still flowing into him. And for the first time in years, he did not feel alone. I am not asking you to forget your past, Isora said. I am asking you to have a future. With us. You do not know me. We met yesterday. I know enough. Isora's voice became firm, carrying the authority of centuries of noble blood. And I am not asking Kang Taeho. I am telling you. This is the Silvereth. My daughter chose you. I am honoring her choice. What if I refuse? Do you want to refuse? Taeho looked past her to the bed where Vila was sleeping. The little girl had woken up and was watching them with wide eyes. She did not understand their words, but she understood their emotions. Taeho felt her fear brush against his mind. Fear that he would leave. Fear that she would lose another person she loved. He thought about walking away. He thought about returning to his empty life, his lonely patrols, his quiet rooms with no one waiting for him. He thought about being safe, protected behind his walls. And then he thought about Vela's hand in his, her trust, her love. The way she called him to peace during her nightmares. The way she had shown him that he could still be good, still be kind, still be someone worth loving. No, Taeho said quietly. I do not want to refuse. Isora's face softened. Something like relief flowed through her touch. Then do not. Vila scrambled off the bed and ran to them. She grabbed Taeho's hand and Isora's hand, holding them together. Her emotions poured into both of them. Joy, hope, love, the simple happiness of a child who had found her family. Taeho looked down at the little girl, then up at her mother. He was still afraid. He probably always would be. But he was also tired of being alone. Okay, he said. I will. I will try. Isora smiled. It was the first time he had seen her smile, and it transformed her face from beautiful to radiant. That is all I ask. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his, a Lunari gesture of acceptance. Taeho felt her mind touch his warm and welcoming, opening a door that he had kept locked for so long. Vela laughed and hugged them both. For the first time in years, Kang Taeho did not feel like a man running from his past. He felt like a man coming home. They came in the night, when the station was quiet and most of its inhabitants were sleeping. Taeho woke to the sound of alarms. He was on his feet before his eyes were fully open, his soldier instincts taking over. Isora was already awake, standing by the window with a look of dread on her face. What is happening? Taeho asked. Ships, Isora said. 3 of them. Slaver vessels. Vila woke up crying, fear pouring off her in waves. Izora went to her, holding her close, trying to calm her with gentle thoughts. But there was no hiding the danger. The slavers had come in force this time. Taiho grabbed his security pistol and checked the charge. Full power. He also grabbed a knife and tucked it into his boot. Old habits. Stay here, he told Izora. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone but me. What are you going to do? Whatever I have to. He left the room and moved through the corridors. The station was in chaos. People were running everywhere, some heading for the escape pods, others hiding in their rooms. No one was trying to fight. No one except him. Tae-Ho made his way to the security office and accessed the station systems. He could see the slaver ships docked at 3 different ports. Teams of armed Kravik were spreading through the station, searching room by room. They were moving toward the workers' section. Toward Isora and Vila. He counted the enemies on his screen. 32. 32 slavers against 1 human security guard. Taeho smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. He began with the environmental controls. He sealed the doors and sections of the station where the slavers had already searched, trapping some of them in empty corridors. He vented the atmosphere in 1 cargo bay, forcing a group of 5 slavers to retreat or suffocate. He cut the lights in another section, plunging it into darkness that the Kravik could not see through. The slavers realized they were being hunted. Taeho met the first group at a junction point. 4 Kravik, armed with shock rifles. They were confident. They were trained fighters. They thought they could handle 1 human. They were wrong. Taeho used the corner of the corridor for cover. He waited until they were close, then stepped out and fired. 2 of them went down before they could react. The third managed to raise his weapon, but Taeho was already moving. He closed the distance in 3 steps, grabbed the rifle, and used it as a club. The fourth tried to run. Taeho shot him in the back. 4 down. 28 to go. He moved through the station like a ghost. He used every trick he had learned during the war, every brutal lesson that violence had taught him. He set traps. He ambushed groups. He disappeared into maintenance tunnels and emerged behind his enemies. He killed quickly and quietly, leaving bodies in his wake. The slavers started to panic. They had expected easy prey, frightened civilians who would hand over the Lunari without a fight. Instead, they found a nightmare. Word spread among them. There was a human. A single human, killing them 1 by 1. They had lost a dozen soldiers and had not even seen his face. The slaver captain, a massive Kravik named Grath, roared with fury. He gathered his remaining forces and pushed forward toward the workers' section. He would find the Lunari himself. He would kill anyone who stood in his way. Taeho was waiting for them. He had chosen his ground carefully. A narrow corridor with doors on both sides. The slavers would have to come through single file. Their numbers would mean nothing. Grath appeared at the end of the corridor. He was enormous, almost 3 meters tall, with scales like black armor and eyes that burned with rage. Behind him were his remaining soldiers. 15 of them. Human, Grath growled. You have killed my men. You have cost me credits. Now you will die, and I will take the Lunari anyway. Citadin stood in the middle of the corridor. He was not hiding anymore. His clothes were torn and stained with blood that was not his own. His face was calm. You can still leave, Taeho said. Take your dead and go. This is your last chance. Grath laughed. It was an ugly sound, like stones being crushed. 1 human against 15 of us? You are insane. Probably, Taeho agreed. But I made a promise. I told a little girl I would keep her safe. And I do not break my promises. Grath raised his weapon. Kill him. The slavers charged. What followed was not a battle. It was a massacre. Taeho used the doors to divide his enemies, opening and closing them to isolate small groups. He used his pistol until it ran out of charge. Then he used his knife. When the knife was knocked from his hand, he used his fists, his elbows, his forehead. He took wounds. A cut across his arm, a burn on his shoulder, a blow to his ribs that probably cracked bone. He felt the pain, accepted it, and kept fighting. The Kravik were stronger than him. They were bigger than him. But they had never fought a human in full protective fury. They had never faced someone who did not stop, who did not slow, who kept coming no matter how much damage they took. One by one, they fell. Finally, only Grath remained. The massive captain stood over Taeho, who was on his knees, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Grath's own body was covered with cuts and burns. One of his arms hung useless at his side. "You are?" "Not possible," Grath gasped. "How are you still alive?" Taeho looked up at him. His eyes were steady. "I told you. I made a promise." He lunged forward. Grath tried to react, but he was too slow, too injured. Taeho drove his knife, retrieved from a fallen body, into the captain's throat. Grath made a wet, choking sound. He fell. Taeho collapsed beside him. His body was screaming with pain. He had nothing left. Every muscle burned. Every breath was agony. But he had one. Footsteps approached. Taeho managed to lift his head and saw Isora running toward him. Her face was pale with fear and something else. Something that looked like awe. "Taeho." She knelt beside him, her hands hovering over his wounds, not knowing where to begin. "You are hurt. You need medical treatment. Vila," Taeho managed. "Is she safe?" Yes, she is safe. You saved her. You saved us both." Taeho smiled. It hurt to smile. Everything hurt. Good. He felt Isora's mind touch his, and he was overwhelmed by her emotions. Fear for him. Gratitude beyond words. And something deeper. Something that took his breath away. She had felt everything during the battle. Through their new bond, she had experienced his fury, his determination, his refusal to give up. But beneath all of that, she had felt the truth of his heart. He had not fought out of anger or hatred. He had fought out of love. Pure, desperate, overwhelming love for a little girl who was not his blood, but was his daughter in every way that mattered. "Rest now," Isora said softly. "I will take care of you." Taeho tried to stay awake, but the darkness was pulling at him. The last thing he felt before he lost consciousness was Isora's hand on his face and her voice in his mind. "You are ours now, and we will never let you go." Taeho woke up in the medical bay. The lights were soft, and the air smelled like medicine and clean sheets. His body ached everywhere, but it was a distant ache, dulled by painkillers. He was alive. That surprised him a little. He turned his head and saw Villa sitting beside his bed. She was asleep in a chair that was too big for her small body curled up under a blanket. Her silver hand was resting on his arm, and even in sleep, he could feel her presence in his mind. Worry, relief, love. Taeho watched her for a long time. She looked peaceful now, her face relaxed, her breathing slow and steady. It was hard to believe that just days ago, she had been a terrified child hiding in a cargo bay. Now she was here, sleeping safely beside him, trusting him completely. The door opened and Isora walked in. She carried 2 cups of something warm. When she saw that he was awake, her face lit up with relief. "You are back," she said, coming to sit on the edge of his bed. "The doctor said you would be unconscious for at least another day. They do not know humans very well. How long was I out?" 2 days. She handed him one of the cups. "Drink, it will help." Taeho took a sip. It was sweet and warm, with a taste he did not recognize. but it made him feel better, so he drank more. "The slavers," he said. "Are they?" "Gone. The ones you did not kill fled the station. Word has spread. No one will come looking for us here again." Isara's voice softened. "You killed 23 of them, Teho. By yourself." Teho did not respond. He did not feel proud of what he had done. He felt tired and empty, the way he always felt after violence. Isora seemed to sense his mood. She reached out and took his hand. "You did what you had to do. To protect us. There is no shame in that. I know. He shook his head. "I do not like who I become when I fight. That part of me is dark, dangerous. I do not want Vela to see it. She already saw it. When you fought the first slavers who came." Taho's chest tightened. What did she think? Isora was quiet for a moment. Then she sent him an image from Vela's mind. It was Taho standing over the fallen slavers, his face hard and his hands bloody. But in the image, there was light around him. Golden light, like he was some kind of guardian from an old story. "She was not afraid of you," Isora said. "She was afraid for you. She worried that you would be hurt, that you would die protecting her. But she was never afraid of what you are." Teho felt something loosen in his chest. He had been so worried that his violence would make the child fear him, would remind her of the slavers who had taken her mother. But Vela had seen the difference. She understood that there was a line between those who used violence to hurt and those who used it to protect. He looked at the sleeping child again. "She is too good for me," he murmured. "She loves you," Isora said simply. "And love does not measure worth. It just is." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Vela stirred in her sleep, but did not wake. Teho finished his drink and set the cup aside. "I should leave," he said finally. Isora went very still. "What?" "After I recover. I should leave. You and Vela are safe now. You can return to your home world, to your people. You do not need me anymore." "That is not true." "Isora." Teho forced himself to meet her eyes. "I am not the right person for this. For any of this. You're a lady of a noble house. Vela is your heir. I am just a broken soldier with nothing to offer. If I stay, I will only bring trouble to your lives." Isara's eyes flashed with something that might have been anger. "You are running away. I am being practical." "No, you are being afraid." She stood up, her movements sharp. "You are afraid that if you stay, you will love us more. And if you love us more, you might lose us. So you want to leave before that can happen." Teho could not answer. She was right, and they both knew it. "Do you think you are the only one who has lost people?" Isara's voice was hard now. "My husband died 3 years ago. Vela barely remembers him. I have watched my friends and family be taken by slavers, killed by raiders, lost to disease and accident. I know what loss feels like. But I am still here. I am still willing to love. That is different." "How?" "Because you are stronger than me." Isora stared at him. Then, slowly, her expression softened. She sat back down on the bed, closer this time, and took his face in her hands. "Kang Teho, look at me." He looked. "You fought 32 armed slavers by yourself. You were cut and burned and beaten, and you did not stop. You did not surrender. You kept going until every single one of them was dead or running. And you did all of that for my daughter." Her voice trembled. "Do not tell me you are not strong. Do not tell me you have nothing to offer. You have given us more in 2 weeks than anyone has given us in years. That was different. That was fighting. Fighting is easy for me. Then, let me tell you what is hard for you. Opening your heart. Trusting someone. Believing that you deserve to be loved." Isora leaned her forehead against his, the Lunari gesture of intimacy. I felt your heart during the battle, Taiho. I know how much you care. You cannot hide that from me. Taiho's breath was shaky. Her mind was touching his, warm and gentle, and he could feel her emotions flowing into him. She was scared, too. Scared of losing him. Scared of being alone again. But she was still here, still fighting for them in her own way. Humans fear attachment, Isora said softly. You have lost before, and you guard your heart like a fortress. But some fortresses are meant to become homes. Vela stirred again. This time she woke, blinking sleepily. She saw Taiho and Isora close together, and a smile spread across her face. Appa, she said. The Korean word for father. She had learned it from his memories, from the fragments of his past that she had touched during their time together. Taiho felt tears sting his eyes. He had not been called that in so long. He had thought he would never hear it again. Viola climbed onto the bed and wedged herself between them. She took Taho's hand and Isora's hand and held them together. Stay, she said in her simple galactic common. Please, stay. Taiho looked at the little girl. He looked at her mother. He thought about all his fears, all his walls, all the reasons he had told himself he could not have this, and then he let them go. Okay, he said. His voice cracked. Okay, I will stay. Vala squealed with joy and hugged him so hard it made his wounds ache. Isora laughed, a beautiful sound, and leaned in to press her lips against his forehead. For the first time since his family died, Taiho let himself cry. And somewhere in the tears, he found something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. 6 months had passed since the battle on Valora 9. Taiho stood in the great hall of House Isora on the Lunari homeworld, feeling like a fish trying to breathe air. The hall was made of crystal. Everything on this world was made of crystal. The walls, the floors, the towers that reached up into the purple sky. The whole planet looked like a dream, beautiful and strange and impossible. Taiho had lived here for 4 months now, and he still could not believe it was real. He tugged at his clothes. The Lunari had dressed him in their formal attire for the ceremony. Flowing robes of deep blue fabric that shimmered when he moved. Silver threads that matched Isora's skin. A collar that felt too tight no matter how many times he adjusted it. Stop fidgeting, Isora said from beside him. She was smiling, amused by his discomfort. You look dignified. I look ridiculous. You look like a man about to join one of the oldest noble houses in the galaxy. She reached up and straightened his collar. Which you are. Vela ran up to them, her white hair bouncing. She had grown in the past months, both in body and in confidence. The fearful child from the cargo bay was gone, replaced by a bright, curious girl who laughed easily and loved without hesitation. Appa, she called, using the Korean word that had become her favorite. It is almost time. Are you nervous? A little, Taiho admitted. Do not be. Everyone will love you. I told them all about you. She grinned proudly. I told them you are the bravest human in the galaxy. That might be an exaggeration. It is not. You saved me from the bad people. You saved Mama too. You are a hero. Taiho knelt down to her level. He was still not used to being called a hero. In his own mind, he was just a man who had done what needed to be done. But when Vela looked at him like that, with complete trust and adoration, it was hard to argue. I am just a man, he said softly. But I will always be your Appa, no matter what. Vela hugged him. Her small arms wrapped around his neck, and her emotions flowed into him through their bond. Love, security, happiness. She was not afraid anymore. She had not had a nightmare in months. Isora watched them with soft eyes. She had changed too during these months. The weight she had carried, the constant fear and vigilance, had slowly lifted. She smiled more now. She laughed. She let herself be something other than a hunted survivor. A bell chimed, deep and musical. It was time. Te-Ho stood and took a breath. Isora took his hand on one side. Vela took his hand on the other. Together, they walked into the great hall. The room was filled with Lunari, hundreds of them, dressed in colors that shifted like water. They turned to watch as the three of them walked down the central aisle toward a raised platform where the elders waited. Te-Ho felt the weight of all those eyes. These were Isora's people, her family, and allies and rivals. Most of them had never seen a human before. They studied him with curiosity, suspicion, and in some cases, open hostility. But Isora walked beside him with her head held high. Her presence was a statement. She had chosen this human. Anyone who questioned her choice was questioning her. They reached the platform. The chief elder, an ancient Lunari with silver skin so pale it was almost white, looked down at them. "Lady Isora of House Isora," the elder said. Her voice was soft but carried through the hall. "You have invoked the Silvereth, the claiming of guardians. This is an ancient rite, rarely used. Explain yourself." Isora stepped forward. "This man, Kang Te-Ho, protected my daughter when I could not. He sheltered her, fed her, and fought for her against those who would do her harm. He was offered payment and refused. He was offered escape and refused. He stayed because my daughter needed him." The elder turned her eyes to Te-Ho. "Human, is this true?" Te-Ho nodded. "Yes. And you accept the Silvereth? You understand what it means?" "I think so. It means I am part of this family now. That Vela is my daughter in the eyes of your people. That I am bound to House Isora. That means more than that." The elder's voice was serious. "It means you carry our honor, our hopes, our future. You are not just joining a family. You are becoming one of us." Te-Ho felt a flutter of fear. This was so much bigger than him. He was just one man, a broken soldier from a small planet. How could he carry the weight of a noble house? But then Vela squeezed his hand, and Isora's presence in his mind, warm and steady, reminded him that he was not alone. "I understand," Te-Ho said. "And I accept." The elder studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly she smiled. "I have lived for 300 years. I have seen many things, wars, disasters, the rise and fall of empires. But I have never seen a human like you, Kang Te-Ho." She turned to address the hall. "The stories say that humans are violent, aggressive, dangerous, and that is true. But what the stories do not tell us is that humans turn that violence into protection. They fight not because they enjoy battle, but because they will let nothing harm those they love." Her voice rose. "This man killed 23 slavers with his own hands. He was cut and burned and beaten, and he did not stop. He did not surrender. He kept fighting until every threat was destroyed. And he did all of this for a child who was not his blood, not his species, not his obligation." She looked at Te-Ho with something like wonder. "That is not violence. That is devotion. And it is the most valuable thing in the galaxy." The hall was silent. Then, slowly, the Lunari began to applaud. Not with their hands, but with their minds. Te-Ho felt waves of approval washing over him, hundreds of minds reaching out to welcome him. The elder raised her hand for silence. "By the ancient law of the Silvereth, I declare Kang Te-Ho a member of House Isora. Let all know that he is family. Let all know that to harm him is to harm us all." It was done. Isora turned to Te-Ho. Her eyes were bright with tears. She reached up and touched his face, and through their bond, he felt everything she felt. Pride, joy, love, deep, overwhelming love that made his heart ache. "You are ours now," she whispered. "Forever." Te-Ho pulled her close. He did not care that hundreds of Lunari were watching. He did not care about protocol or dignity. He kissed her, and she kissed him back, and Vila giggled and hugged them both. The galaxy would whisper about them. About the human who became part of a Lunari noble house. About the mother who claimed a broken soldier as her own. About the little girl who saw a hero in a lonely man. But Tejo did not care about the galaxy. He only cared about the two people in his arms. His daughter. His love. His family. He had spent years running from the past. Years hiding from pain. Years telling himself he was better off alone. But he was not alone anymore. He had a home. He had a purpose. He had something worth living for. Isora had once told him that humans guarded their hearts like fortresses. She had been right. But some fortresses were not prisons. Some fortresses were homes. And Tejo had finally come home. He looked at Vila, now confident and laughing, and at Isora, whose smile had become his anchor. He had thought he was guarding them. He did not realize they were saving him.